Hi everyone, my name is Ikra and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, I don't know if you know about my interests in technology and coding, but yeah, other than YouTube, I do like technology and coding. In fact, I want to pursue iOS development as a career someday. Now, because of that, I follow a lot of tech people, developers on Twitter. And for the most part, it's a pretty wholesome and encouraging environment. But once in a while, just like any other Twitter community, it gets a bit toxic. So it was one fine day, I was scrolling through Twitter when I found Kelly's tweet. It was about gatekeeping and how a lot of people consider HTML to not be a programming language. Now, when I came across this tweet, I didn't think much of it, but when I clicked on some of the replies, some of them were so passionate about disregarding it as a programming language that was bizarre, toxic, and a bit unnecessary. So that's when I knew I wanted to dig a bit deeper into finding more about this topic. I wanted to find out the validity of the statement HTML is a programming language. And that's what this video is about. By the way, Kelly is an amazing digital artist. She makes some really cool programming related stickers and also does illustrations. So if you do want to check it out, which I highly recommend, I'll link everything down in the description below. Having said that, let's get back into our investigation. But before I even start my investigation, I want to put it out there that I'm a bit unsure of how this video is going to be perceived. I mean, there are people that passionately debate about how
pineapples do not exist on pizzas.
So all I ask from people watching this video is to be a little more open-minded, but I totally support the freedom of thought and speech. So if you do want to get nasty in the comments below, sure, go ahead. Now, as a millennial, whenever I'm unsure of something, I always Google search it. So let's Google programming meaning. The process of writing computer programs. Next logical thing to do is Google computer programs. Computer programs, a collection of instructions that can be executed by a computer to perform a specific task. Cool. So programming is the process of writing computer programs, and computer programs are a set of instructions written for the computer to perform a task. So with that logic, programming language would be a computer language to write computer programs. But let's Google it. Programming language is a formal language comprising of a set of instructions that produce various kinds of output. Let's say I want to write a simple computer program. So I have to write a set of instructions in a formal computer language to perform that task. Now I want my task to be the classic printing hello world or displaying hello world. So in the world of technology, we like demos more than speaking. So let's do a bit of show and tell, all right? I have my wonderful VS Code editor opened. Let's say I want to use Python because that is the first language I learned. The set of instruction that I need to write to perform that task is print hello world, and then I run it in the console. Ta-da! Amazing. Now, I want a more specific task than this. I want to display this message on a web browser instead of my Python console. This time, I'm opening a new file, index.html, and writing the command h1 tags with, let's write helloHackers this time. Amazing. And now I'm going to run it. So there you go. I wrote a computer program to perform my specific task using HTML language this time. By the way, shameless plug, helloHackers is a hackathon society that I started at my university. So if you're from my university, please sign up. And if you're a company watching that likes sponsoring hackathons, please sponsor us. Thank you. So in the first example, I was able to write my computer program using Python as my programming language. And in the second example, because I wanted a web browser, I used HTML. Now this was an easy task to do, so I just used HTML. But perhaps for a more complex problem, still related to web, I might use Flask or JavaScript. But in this case, I didn't have to. Why complicate things when there's no need to? And with that logic, I think HTML is a programming language. But no, I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to find out arguments that are brought up by people that do not consider HTML to be a programming language. So I went to YouTube this time and searched for HTML is not a programming language. And this video came up.
I just want to take a moment and talk about HTML and how it's not a programming language. It surprises me how surprising it is to some people when I say HTML is not a programming language. HTML for the most part is just static text, but it itself is not a programming language. It doesn't have while loops, it doesn't have if-then statements, it doesn't have case statements.
The main argument brought up by this person was that HTML doesn't have functions, loops, if statements. But my question is, when did that become a requirement for something to be considered a programming language? Another argument that came up was a programming language being Turing complete. Now, I didn't know what Turing complete is, so again, I Googled it. When I Googled Turing complete, the official definition was a bit hard to understand, so I resorted to YouTube instead. I watched a video by Computerphile explaining it. I'm going to spare you my explanation, maybe find it out on your own. But what I did find is, again, Turing complete is not a requirement for it to be a programming language. In fact, even if it was, some people were saying HTML and CSS combined does make the system Turing complete. And there was also a YouTube video which proved PowerPoint being Turing complete. Now, this is where things get interesting. So while watching that video by Computerphile, I also found another video by Computerphile which had the title HTML is a programming language. Everything was full circle. I had to watch the video. I'm going to add all the videos that I'm mentioning in the description below. I will try to summarize whatever was in the video, but again, highly recommend you watching it on your own. So guess what? That video started off by the professor addressing that a lot of people were calling him out for considering HTML to be a programming language and questioning his knowledge. That's bizarre. That's exactly what this whole gatekeeping thing is about. So watching the video, I found out that there are two programming styles, declarative and imperative. I don't know if I'm saying declarative correctly. Declarative, let's just go with declarative. And obviously at some point, one merges into the other. In imperative style of programming, you tell the computer how to perform the task. And that's when the whole if functions, loops come into play. Whereas declarative style of programming is more of a functional approach. So you tell the computer what to do and the interpreter takes care of it. Now, like I mentioned, I want to get into iOS development. So I started learning iOS development using SwiftUI, a UI framework released by Apple last year, and it takes more of a declarative approach. Now, the thing about SwiftUI is it's all about the views. Let's say I want to display helloHackers again on a mobile app. Now, I'm not going to try explaining all the syntax. If you are interested, I'll link my Intro to iOS Development workshop video that I did for Hack Quarantine. So essentially what's happening is I've imported SwiftUI framework, and now I'm using text view to return hello world, which is being displayed on the screen. So I tell the computer that I want a text to be displayed on the screen, and the interpreter or the SwiftUI framework takes care of it. Now let me try explaining declarative style of programming with the help of pickers, because that's how I was taught. So let's say I want to add a picker view to my mobile application, and I want the person to pick their chosen programming language. This is a declarative user interface design. We've told the program what we want rather than say how it should be done. We said we want a picker with some value inside, but it was down to the SwiftUI to decide whether a wheel picker or another type of picker is a better approach. Similarly, we can import other libraries, be it in Swift, Python, or any other language, and this is where one style of programming merges to the other. So coming back to HTML, let's consider the h1 tag. We call the h1 tag function, and because we don't have a semicolon, in this particular language, the syntax asks us to put a slash and then the tag name. So that's where the function statement ends. And then whatever you put inside those two is your argument for the function. So in some sort of way, this can be considered a very restrictive declarative style of programming. But even if you reached till this point of the video, it is possible that you still do not consider HTML to be a programming language. And that is what I'm most concerned with. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. So in addition to having arithmetic intelligence, we also have emotional intelligence. And that's why I really want to understand, why is it so necessary for some people to go out of their way and to pinpoint other people that want to get into coding, that want to get into web development, and go to them and say, it's good that you've learned HTML and CSS, that's amazing, but you can't call yourself a programmer not until you've learned JavaScript or any other programming language. We're heading towards a world that needs more tech-savvy people, not just as consumers and users, but also as creators of tech solutions for existing problems. And if you happen to be solving problems for the web just simply using HTML, so be it. Web development is getting super popular right now. And for a lot of people, HTML is the first step into getting into web development. So why not be more encouraging of it? If you're a programmer watching this and your first language happens to be HTML, well done. I'm super proud of you and best of luck with the rest of your programming journey, be it just in HTML or any other language you decide to learn. And if you're a programmer watching this that doesn't consider HTML to be a programming language, I just want to know one good reason as to how it's going to hurt you to include one more language in the list of languages that you know. If you personally don't want to include HTML under your programming language section in your CV, don't. But why shame others that decide to do so? Why have such a constrictive definition of the term? Consider human language, for example. In a more generic and common understanding of the term human language, it could be words spoken in order to communicate with other human beings. But if you broaden your perspective and consider sign language, that doesn't require words being spoken, but it's still effective communication. So why not broaden your perspective about programming languages as well? Please stop being a gatekeeper for no reason. That's all I ask. Also, I realize that there are worse problems happening in this world right now. So I guess that makes it more of a reason to not make this an issue. Just consider HTML to be a programming language. Be accepting, be it in this case or other aspects of your life too. Again, I would like to thank Kelly for starting this conversation on Twitter. I'm so glad I came across it. Please do check her stuff out. It's amazing. Coming to think of it, I hope she releases a HTML programming related sticker soon. I would like to end this video by saying I am a proud HTML programmer and you should be too. Okay, bye! I've been recording for an hour. Oh my god. Ouch.